Hello, everyone, and welcome to Main Street's Swim with Jim. This is Jim Ludwig, founder of Main Street Financial Planning, and we have a show that periodically interviews people who we think you ought to hear from because they have great stories to tell, and today is no exception. We have a fairly new planner with us at Main Street, and when she shared her story about getting out of debt with me, it occurred to me that other people should hear how she did it. So I'd like you to introduce Liz Gillette. Good morning, Liz. Are you there?
Good morning, Jim. Good to see you.
Yes. Now, you're a certified financial planner. You've been in the business about 7 years. You started with Main Street this past February 2018. And how have you liked it so far?
Well, are we filming or are we not
Yes.
filming? I love it. It's been a great transition. It's been very smooth, and we've got an incredible team here. So I feel very blessed.
Well, one of the discussions we had, you shared your story with me of how you became interested in financial planning. And our topic this month is getting out of debt and strategies to do that and stay out of debt. You have a really interesting story. Would you mind sharing that with our viewers and listeners?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So my journey started, I attended college at GW, George Washington University. I studied business there with a minor in exercise science, and I was a Division I volleyball player on the Colonials team there. So it's pretty busy during college. Found myself working a 20-hour-a-week job, aka volleyball, while working hard to maintain the dean's list at GW. And while I was there, I kept thinking, what am I going to do after school? Because I had so many classmates and friends that were able to get internships on the Hill and all this time to kill. And I felt like I was pretty restricted in what I was able to do and the commitments that it took to be on the volleyball team. So throughout my years at GW, I had an incredible athletic counselor that worked with us, and we often got together and started building my resume from freshman year, sophomore, and I have to tell you, that resume was bare bones because, as I used to say to Jen, I would say it's one line on my resume, GW volleyball, yet somehow it's taking up so much of my time. So how can I find a way to stand out? And so I got involved with more and more organizations at school, being a peer mentor, working for the NCAA location at GW, and involving all the other student athletes in community service opportunities. And while I was in school, I just wanted to soak up as much as I could because that meant college was ending soon and the real world was coming, and I had to decide what I wanted to do with my life. So I was fortunate to graduate college with a job right out of school. That's always a good thing, but graduating in June of 2009, that was a very, very good thing. So I started my career off. I moved down to Jacksonville, Florida, and I worked for a recruiting firm. So my role was sales director. I would work with leadership teams of hospitals, find out about their recruiting needs, and then I had a team of recruiters that would do professional matchmaking, for lack of a better term. So I really enjoyed that job. It allowed me to, work with all different types of people, but ultimately build relationships and find ways to say, okay, what are some of the skill sets that are working for me in this job? And then what are some things that I'm missing? And what I noticed during that time was I enjoyed what I was doing, but over the weekends, here I was on my computer building a spreadsheet, trying to figure out how to pay off all of my student loans and my car loan and the medical bills. And so I had a real aha moment back in 2012. And I was, as I said, I was enjoying my job enough, but I just had this overwhelming feeling of, what am I going to do about all this debt? How am I ever supposed to build myself up from this? And it's worth mentioning that I was living in the DC area, which is a pretty expensive cost of living. So how can I get ahead? Because I just felt like it was very challenging. I felt very burdened. I felt very fearful. I grew up, I'm one of 5 children. I grew up in a family where my mother was a Catholic school teacher. And so we were fortunate to get our Catholic education for free. But that also meant that there wasn't a ton of dollars coming in from that. And I saw the sacrifices that my parents made for me and my other 4 siblings. And I saw the impact that it had on when they'll be able to retire. And I just wanted something better. I wanted something better for my parents. How can I help them? How can I obtain this knowledge to be able to make an impact on people in my lives? And how do I dig myself out of this hole? And in case you want to know what hole I'm talking about.
Yes, we do want to know. How deep was the hole?
This is pretty deep. It was $125,000 worth of debt, and I didn't own property. So it was 11 student loans, 2 car loans. So what I did, the way that I worked it out with my now husband, is my rule of thumb was, until we're married, your debt is your debt, my debt is my debt. And I was carrying the bulk of it. So frankly, it would have been a little kinder if I said, hey, you know, we're together, maybe you should pay off some of mine. But it really taught me such a valuable lesson. So of those loans, 9 of the student loans were mine, and the car loan, and 4 medical debts that I had. And I just found myself feeling really overburdened and not knowing where to start. So one of my wonderful brothers sent me Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, or they've read, or they love it, or they hate it. But for me, what it taught me was, if you're willing to put in the hard work, if you believe in discipline, if you believe in delayed gratification, if you believe in the road less traveled, then you can live this incredible life, and you can impact the people around you the way that I wanted to. You can be generous, because I wanted to have that ability to be generous and give back to the people who've given so much to me. And you can really make a bigger impact on the world when you're not feeling the burden and the fear and the shame that comes with financial struggles. So the book spoke to me. I read the whole thing overnight. You know how that story goes. I woke up the next morning. I started listing out all of my debts. It was alarming. I'm reading these stories and I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And then when I saw how much I had, I was like, wow, I've got quite a journey ahead of me. But it was one heck of a journey. I called the gym and I said, I'm canceling my membership here. I got into extreme couponing before it was even a thing, actually, which is not something that I talk about very often, but I did. I found every way that I could save some money and save some dollars. And living in DC was something where that city has a lot to offer that doesn't cost any money. So don't get tempted by the drinks and the restaurants and the fancy events. I said no to just about everything. And I just became, as Dave Ramsey calls it, gazelle-like intense. You get so narrow-minded and focused. And the athlete in me immediately connected to that. That's something that I feel like matches with my personality. So I started to tackle them. I know Jim and I were talking about the snowball versus the avalanche approach of different debts to take. So my thought process was, I took on those higher percentage of debts first. So one of them, I have it written down right here, was $21,600. So instead of building up little wins, I wanted to attack the beast. I knew what I knew. I knew I wasn't going to change my mind. I'm kind of like that. Once I set my mind to something, you're not really going to change my mind about it. So I went for a different approach where I said, let's knock out the Hulk. Like, let's get this done so I can start to feel the impact. And then sure enough, when one debt is paid off, more start to come in. And I can tell you the way that my salary was set up at that time was helpful. In this commission job, in this recruiting job, I had a base salary, which covered all of my basic needs. And then I received commissions and bumps on different sales. So it kept my motivation exceptionally high. And it's what they say, Jim, where whether you're on a weight loss journey or a financial journey, once that ball starts rolling, it impacts every area of your life. I just started blowing my career out of the water and excelling in that because I was so motivated. I knew where those dollars were going every single time, I got another contract placed. So I would take all those lump sums and I'd put it toward one debt. And then next thing you know, that freed up some money, and then it would start to snowball. And I'd put all my extra money toward another debt and another debt. So something that helped me a lot is I did one of those thermometers, like the old school ones you draw on paper. I had it every single morning when I opened my closet. You can see my little thermometer, and I would just start to fill it up in blue marker as I got to new levels and got to new levels. And the part that still astonishes me today is I set aggressive goals, right? I did the math. I said, okay, I'm averaging about this much of my salary and bonus. I bet I can pay it off by this date. And wouldn't you know that I beat every goal. And I don't say that to sit here and to toot my own horn, because it's more about the process. I think there's a power in setting your mind to something and to knowing that, you know, I got an email that my car insurance went down $15. Awesome. I know where that's going. Like, it's just, money finds its way to you. I really do believe in abundance. And I found that once I had a game plan set up, that money was looking for me, and it was looking to make sure that, you know, I could get all these debts paid off. I do want to remind you that, so I graduated in June of 2009. In August, to a few months later, I found out about medical bills and collections that I didn't even know existed. So then I had to deal with the whole credit issue and get those paid off. In September, I totaled my car, and I reached my annual deductible and medical bills. So just so you know, the whole path was not easy. I remember the exact moment when I was sitting in the car and being like, holy God, am I gonna be able to do this? So there's lots of bumps in the road. I had a bunch of dental procedures, over $10,000 worth of dental work in 1 year that I had to put on a card, but as long as I paid it off in that 1 year, there was 0% interest. So I had lots of obstacles in my way, but I kept kind of that relentless positivity and that refuse to fail, you know, mentality. And it was just something I created a vision board, okay? And it had pictures of me walking down my wedding day in my wedding dress, debt-free. And I did that, and it felt amazing. And it felt like the biggest joy that I could do to my husband, to my family. And now I've got a little girl. And it's just, this is the life that I wanted for us, where she would grow up seeing her parents feel in control of their finances. And I want it to be an open discussion in our household where we can talk about the good and the bad. And these are the colleges that you can attend that I can pay for. And then these are the colleges that Daddy and I, you know, aren't really willing to extend, and that will come out of your pocket. So it's been one heck of a journey, and start to finish. So all of that debt has been paid off. Since then, we bought a house in 2014. We did a 20% down payment, and we moved out here to Maryland. So that was something that we started saving for. I can tell you, as part of the Dave Ramsey's plan, for a lot of it, he recommends stopping your retirement contributions. And I just want to tell you, as a CFP, now that I kind of have a better comprehensive understanding of everything, that's something that I take a strong stance against. Even if his thought process, okay, is that if you think that you're going to be on your debt-free journey for only 2 or 3 years, it's worth stopping your contributions and putting all the extra money, you know, toward your debt. But I found that that was a major risk to take. Also, these debt payoff journeys can go a lot longer than you originally expected, as houses happen and marriage and babies and all of these things. And also, looking at the market and what it has done since 2009, I can only imagine what my frustration would be if I were to calculate the numbers of how much money I missed out on and the compounding interest of delaying my retirement contribution. So to this day, I call myself a Dave Ramsey fan. I think he's ideal for people that are starting off in their lives, that have a lot of debt, that have minimal income, trying to make the best of it. But as I've learned more and educated myself on the various areas of finance, I definitely take a hybrid approach. I don't just drink the Kool-Aid. I use my knowledge to say, well, in my circumstance, this makes a little bit, you know, more sense.
Liz, you mentioned a couple of times some visual cues that you came up with. A lot of people learn visually. Can you go over that thermometer and that goal board again? It really is curious. I'd like to hear more about that.
Absolutely. So for the thermometer, that's when I did the math and I said, okay, if I can put this much extra money toward each goal, I use this fantastic calculator that I'd be happy to share with all your fans. It's the exact one that I use. So maybe it'll bring good juju. It's the one that I use to pay off my debt. But it does a great job of giving you estimated dates of when they think each loan or whatever type it is, whether it's auto or student loan or medical bill, of when it'll be paid off. So I started to build this thermometer. It was about this big, and I had little levels of when I would reach, okay, $5,000 paid off, and then $7,000. And so by visually every single morning I had to open my closet. It was the only thing that held my clothes. So every morning I knew I'd be going into that closet and instantly reminded of what my goal is and what I'm reaching for. And to me, it's what base level comfort, right? Is, okay, I don't want my family to live with the fear of not being able to have the basic needs met. the house to live in, the food to eat, the water to be shut off, right? So you meet that level. And then for Brandon and myself, it was kind of like, okay, now I want to build a cushion. Now I want to have an emergency fund. Now I want to save for retirement, even though my friends aren't saving. I want to do that. And then you start to go a little bit higher. Okay, I think it's time to save for a house. So for me, it's evolved over time, you know, what financial freedom means, because it started with bare necessities. And I was just happy every time I got a bill in the mail, I knew I could pay it. And I wasn't thinking, well, payday's next Friday, so I better move money around. I mean, to me, that was a victory. So it's just very interesting with my vision board. It's evolved over time.
Where did you physically place the vision board?
Here it is. So
I didn't even know you had.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just whenever I'm doing something that's inspiring me, I really like to have it. So I kept it in the desk in my office where I did all of my work. And so for me, it includes things. So today it includes our payoff journey of our debt. It's pictures of the people that inspire me, which can either be someone professional or a political figure, but it's a lot of members of my family and friends, and anyone that I look at and I really aspire to be like them in a certain way. It's got a wonderful quote by Robert Frost, you know, 2 roads diverged and I took the one that was less traveled, and it made all the difference, because it's just a reminder that there's the easy way. But I'll tell you, Jim, everything I've done in my life that I'm proud of required growth and required pain. And so I love reminding myself that if I'm out of my comfort zone, that means something great's about to happen. You know, because it's too easy. I believe that to the bottom of my soul. So it's too easy to coast. So I find myself, whether it's physically, you know, doing these Tough Mudder 12-mile runs, or with my career making leaps, I love knowing that I can push myself to a boundary, because that's when I'm most proud. So yeah, the vision board has a few quotes and emails from people that I admire, from my family members, emails they've sent me after some of my victories, and then the life I aspire to have. So it's got a family there with a bunch of kids, and they just look like life is messy and happy. And that's how I want, you know, my life. So it's a mix between professional and personal.
Well, as we wrap this up today, Liz, any last minute tips for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, definitely. I would say step 1 is it's worth exploring your values first, okay? Because money payoff is not just money payoff, right? It is not just cutting up a credit card and saying, okay, now I feel better. What are you going to do with that money? How does it feel when you get a bill and you get that feeling in your stomach because you don't know whether you're going to be able to pay it on time? What does it feel like to tell your kid, we'll do your doctor's appointment next month, because mommy knows that it's not going to work for this month? So because I experienced so much of that as a child and then a little bit as an adult, I really, with my clients, like to tap into the emotion behind money. So I would inspire our clients to just think about the emotion behind it. You know, what are you going to do with that money? Is that going to give you the freedom to spend more time with your children, or in your career, or travel the world, or what is it that you're going to do with your money? And do not lose sight of that. And if you have visual reminders, of that, then I think you're that much closer to reaching your goal, for sure. And the second thing is just don't go for the easy road. Everybody else goes for the easy road. It's very crowded. It's crowded there. And I think it's worth pushing yourself, because, as I said, the things I'm most proud of in my life are the things that I walked into it and there was a lot of fear, but I just did it anyway. And that just makes me feel like my most powerful version. And that's the person I want to be for myself, for my daughter, and for my family.
Liz, that's just wonderful. I've titled this interview today, A True Life Story, How I Got Out of Debt and Why. And you have told us how you got out of debt and why. And so my summary is the why turns out to be more important than the strategies on how to get out of debt. But thank you for sharing both of those elements with us. This is Jim Ludwig, the founder of MainStreet Financial Planning, and we've been talking to Liz Gillette, certified financial planner and a member of the MainStreet Financial Planning team. And we'll put in the comments section a link to that calculator that Liz mentioned, okay? So everybody can have a chance to use a wonderful tool. Thank you, folks. We appreciate you staying with us today. And Watch out for those sharks. Have a great day.